Welcome back to the Retire as You Desire show. Today, we have a fun one for you. We're going to be discussing the dangers in retirement. And boy, there's a whole list of them. Over the past 15 years, I've heard so many different worries, things that make people super scared in retirement. And today, I want to debunk one of them. It's actually the biggest risk for people in retirement. But first, I just want to get started with some of the most common ones that we've seen. There's a whole list of them, and your health, long-term care needs is such a big one. Over 70% of retirees are going to need some form of care in retirement. It could be for 3 months, a year, we don't know. But that's one of the things that I see people miss the most when they do their planning. Some other dangers include loneliness, and we talked about this in our first session, in our first TV show, and your longevity as well. If you want to live a long life, having community, having great people around you is going to give you a sense of purpose, and your family is a big part of that as well. But one of the other dangers that I've seen over the years is having a loss of purpose. It's really a big struggle for people to transition from their working years directly into their retirement years, where every day is a Saturday. It's a big problem because they lose power, they lose those relationships, and they lose those routines that they've had with their work over the past however many years of their career. But there's a big list of dangers in retirement. In today's show, I'm going to show you how to plan for income in retirement. This is truly the number one fear of retirees throughout America. If you look at any survey, any study, this is prevalently number one by far. And the reason for this is just the fear of loss. When you don't have money coming in, when that's shut off, when your working years are done, most people worry about this. I mean, I saw one of my clients last night. She's been retired for over 10 years. And you know what she asked me? Even someone who's been retired for 10 years already asked me, am I okay still? Am I going to be okay? Like, can we do a review for our money? Because I held an event last night for our clients. And it's just fascinating to me. You could plan as well as you possibly could. And people are still going to be worried about money. So this is ultimately the number one danger. And even last week, I was out to dinner with a group of friends, and they're in their 40s. So they're around my age. I'm not there yet. I'm getting close, but not in my 40s yet. But one of the guys said something that was super shocking to me. He said to me, I'm super worried about running out of money in retirement. And I'm sitting here thinking, how is that even possible? You're 42, you have a great job, great career, and you're saving. But he said to me, Bill, I don't know what the future holds. And this really came down to, are you being consistent? Are you doing the right things right now? And we talked about this for the next 20 or 30 minutes. But I was just shocked that a 42-year-old was worried, who had maybe 20 to 30 years more of working, to be worried about income in retirement. It was just mind-boggling. So it's very true that people have issues before retirement, during retirement, and even when you're 10 or 20 years into retirement, to be worried about money. But it's not a surprise that having money is the problem. If you run out, guess what you don't get to do? The fun things, the paychecks. You don't get to travel. You don't get to spend the money on those activities that make you so happy, that give you that confidence and allow you to go see your family when you want to. It's really tough. So let's get into why people get into money issues into retirement. I think this really goes into why there's fears. Like, why do people get into money issues? I'm going to give you some great examples throughout the whole entire show today. So you're going to want to stick with us, and hopefully you don't run into these issues, because learning from other people's mistakes is the best way to learn. So number one, I really don't believe people know if they're overspending or underspending, or underinvesting or overinvesting, because I don't think there is a thing to overinvest. But overspending is super prevalent. I just watched a TED Talk the other day about people in retirement, and he asked the whole entire crowd to stand up. This was fascinating. He said, if you know the last time that you took $100 out of the ATM, stand up. So about a third of the crowd sat down. A third, they didn't even know when they actually got $100 out of the ATM. Pretty shocking. And then next, the big question was, okay, out of that $100 that you took out of the ATM, where did you spend that money? If you remember, stay standing up. The majority of the crowd was half out at that time. People didn't know where that $100 went. And this is part of the problem of overspending. And then the last question that he said, this was the best one. How many of you know how much money you spent over the past month? And the crowd kind of gasped because no one wants to be honest with themselves as to how much money they spent. And about a third of the audience was still standing. And those are the people who are keeping track of every single penny, every single month. They're using tools to help them with that, but there's a ton of them, like Diane Money, that are readily available to show you your spending. But not knowing your capacity to spend versus investing each month is a big problem. The sooner you get your hands around where your money's going, the better your retirement is going to be. Another issue that I've seen really relates to a danger in retirement is how much you're withdrawing from your investments each month. I want to say this and be very open with this. Work with your financial advisor or your tax professional on these things because they're going to be the ones to help you get through these aspects in retirement. But if you don't plan for proper income up front before you retire, things get difficult. One of my great clients said, I would love to have $6,000 a month, live a very simple life in retirement. 2 years later, you know what they said to me? They said, Bill, I would love to have $12,000 a month of income from my investments. And I nearly fell out of my seat. I couldn't believe it. I'm like, we planned for 6, now you want 12. That's double. I ran the numbers for them, and it didn't look good if they lived to 100. And we had to have that hard conversation to say, you know what? If we take on this much risk in the market, maybe we could make up for that, but we have to be comfortable taking on that risk. That's one of the things about running out of money is so prevalent is the risk in the markets. But that leads me to my next topic for part 1 of the show today. When the markets are not performing well, people probably shouldn't be taking out as much from their investments in retirement. This is really important because as soon as you take that money out of your investment accounts, guess what? It's really hard to make that back. Especially if you have, let's say, a 20% loss in the market that year, you have to make 25% the following year just to get even. And then, here's what makes matters worse. If you withdrew money from your accounts, you need an even higher return just to get back to even. So when the markets are down, be very cognizant of how much you're withdrawing. You may want to slow down on making a big purchase if the stock market is down, which it's bound to happen in retirement. But that could be a big aspect of success or failure in retirement years. Now, one of my favorite things to talk about is taxes. I love the tax code. I love looking into this because it plays such a huge part in your retirement years. If you don't know, number one, how much taxation you're going to have on your Social Security, you need to get with your advisor on this and your tax professional. If you don't know if your Medicare is going to be taxed in retirement, this is another thing that you really want to talk to your professional team about, because these are little hidden taxes that you don't really see until you get your tax bill that you want to be aware of. But also, taxes could potentially be going up in 2026. The current tax code is set to expire. We're in 2024 during this recording, so please please be mindful of that whenever you watch this great episode. But in 2026, we're geared to have potentially different tax brackets. And knowing how much wiggle room you have between the tax brackets is a great benefit, especially when you're taking withdrawals out of your taxable accounts. These are all the scenarios that we help our clients with almost weekly at this time, because you need to know your numbers. It's a huge benefit for yourself. But also, according to the Census Bureau, the average retirement income for US adults 65 and older in 2024 is $75,020 a year, or $6,252 per month. That's the average. The median income for that age group is $50,290 per year, or $4,191 per month. So, as you can see, the majority of people are not living on a ton of money in retirement. They're really keeping things pretty simple. I've seen on average between $6,000 and $8,000 a month of really wanted income just to set the basis and the foundation for your future retirement. One other fun fact, that Americans in 2022, they had an average of roughly $334,000 of retirement savings. And in the next segment, we're going to talk about really what that means, and averages and the medians, and how you can plan for your own financial future and hopefully not run out of money in retirement and avoid the number one danger in retirement. Welcome back to the Retire As You Desire show. Bill Bloom here, and I'm here to share with you today about the dangers in retirement. So, part one, we really discussed quite a few different dangers in retirement, and for everyone, they're different. They have different fears and different obligations that they worry about. But the number one fear for people that's been studied, analyzed year after year after year is running out of money. People are living longer. The centenarians have really grown in not only the world, but in the US, especially in the blue zone in California. We have people living over 100 with their health. So the way that I plan for retirement income for our clients is living to at least age 100. It's a simple way to show if the money could potentially last that long. So let's get into some averages. In the first segment, we were talking about really how much money does an average retiree have in America. According to a really important study in 2022 from Consumer Finances, the average American has $333,940 in retirement savings. So, pretty good amount. The median average, this is the important one, is only $87,000. Unbelievable. So, that's in America. We have 330 plus million people living in the great United States of America. The median retirement savings is only $87,000. It's mind-boggling. People could blow through that in 1 year in retirement, especially if you have health issues. So the importance of saving early and often is super critical. And another fun stat is the average 65 to 74-year-old has $426,000 saved in retirement accounts, and that's including 401ks and IRAs. But the average 70-year-old, this is a fun one, has roughly $60,000 in transaction accounts like checking, savings, roughly $127,000 in CD accounts. And you have to remember, this generation of baby boomers, their parents went through the Great Depression. So this is a mindset thing. They don't like risk. The majority of baby boomers do not like risk, in my experience over the past 15 years. And they love having their money in places that they don't have to worry about fluctuations. And a big risk of potentially running out of money in retirement is not having enough risk for your investments. So you can't just put all your money in a CD and hope that it's going to last forever. For most cases, again, it depends on how much you saved and what your lifestyle really looks like. But typically, you want to have your money diversified in different investments to have the right amount of risk per the right amount of asset class. And your financial advisor could probably help you with that. So getting back to our 70-year-olds, some of my favorite people on the planet. They have an average of $17,000 in savings bonds. Yes, those are still a thing. I bonds as well. And they have roughly $43,000 in cash value. Yes, cash value in life insurance. This is really important because that could be a great tax benefit for you in retirement, still having life insurance. So that's something to talk to your advisor about as well. So I'm also going to give you some fun ideas on how to get through retirement if you don't feel as if you've saved enough already. And don't worry, don't feel bad about this. The majority of retirees don't feel like they saved enough. Even if they have 2 million, 3 million, 5 million, like some of our clients do, they even question, do we have enough, or where do we rank against all your other clients? And I would say you should never worry about that because you're focusing on other people. Focus on yourself, how much income you need. That's a better way to have a better mindset in retirement. Don't worry about other people. So here's some great ideas if you haven't saved enough money for retirement, or if you feel like you haven't saved enough money. If you haven't retired yet, you definitely want to minimize your debt. This is a big one, especially if you've only saved, like the median said earlier, $87,000 for retirement. You want to pay yourself first. Mark Cuban, a lot of people know who this is, the billionaire. He says that when you pay off, for instance, a 30% APR on one of your credit cards, you make 30% on your money instantly because you're not paying that 30% debt. It's a huge savings, and it's a huge savings for you monthly too. It's great for cash flow. Retirement is all about cash flow. Having debt could be the deal breaker for an early retirement as well. So if you're planning on retiring early, eliminating debt could be a huge benefit for you. And if you still haven't saved enough money, you want to cut back. And this is not the fun part. This is what any pre-retiree doesn't want to hear. Stopping the trips, maybe the concerts, big ticket items, things that you normally don't spend money on, you probably shouldn't do these things. And this is, life's meant to be enjoyed. It really, really is. But if it's going to stop you from retiring early, if that's your goal, you have to make a choice. If it's one thing or the other, make the smart choice and let the numbers do the talking. And the thing that really stinks with this is you really want to enjoy your life and do the fun things. But again, you have to stay focused during these years. Believe me, it helps a ton. But here's some ways to make some potential extra money is selling some of your toys, like extra cars, your boat that you don't use. If you have a timeshare, what about your vacation homes? Do you actually use them? How much is that actually costing you? Probably a lot. I was talking to a gentleman the other day who had a whole lineup of classic guitars, but was $54,000 in credit card debt, and his business wasn't doing well. So I said to him, sometimes you have to sell the toys that you don't use or need in order to get ahead. And he was so relieved to hear that. He didn't want to do it, but it was going to help him in the long run. Make the decisions that are going to help you in the long run. You could always buy these toys back later. Maybe get better ones as well. So I want to tell a quick story about a dear friend of mine. He wants to retire early at age 60. It's just really funny to tell this because they have 2 boats, one in Chicago, one in Florida. So you're thinking right then and there, oh my gosh, it must cost a fortune. And it does. One of the boats they barely use. It's a very old sailboat. He told me the other day that they only have taken it out on average 2 times a year in the past year. So, being the financial advisor that I am, I asked him, how much money have you wasted in the past 5 years? And he said between the maintenance, the docking, the storage, the work that they have to do, the gas to drive to the boatyard and do the work, was over $50,000 gone. $50,000 wasted for something that they used 10 times. That's a question you have to be honest with yourself. And I said to him, when are you going to sell the boat? He's like, oh my gosh, I need to do it right now. So he made a conscious decision that he can now invest that money moving forward to really allow him to reach the goals and have that early retirement at 60. That's what the number said to do, and that's what he's doing. He made the right choice. And when we were done with that conversation, when I went back to my office, I did some math. That same $50,000 amount that he spent, if you would have invested that money over a 30-year run with a 7% rate of return, after all fees and taxes, things like that, he would have had about $380,000. So it was a big waste of money, and he finally saw the light and had that aha moment, which is great for him. He's going to be able to potentially retire early because he's going to stop spending the money on things that he doesn't need. And if you don't feel like you've saved enough money in retirement, gig work is a great thing, getting that part-time job. And I'll tell you, it's important for a couple reasons. Number one, it still gives you a sense of purpose to get out of bed every morning. I talked a lot about that in the 4 Phases of Retirement TV episode. You really want to have that sense of purpose in retirement. And doing some work is a great way to do that. And also, it still puts money in your pocket. You don't have to work full time, work your butt off, or work at your prior job. But a good way to ease into retirement is to do a partial retirement, whether that's starting at Home Depot, working on the golf course, or just still working part-time at your company that you're currently working at. Because you probably have 20, 30, 40 years worth of great experience and knowledge. You could be a mentor for the new people coming up through the ranks of the company. So don't discount that. And another thing that I recommend people not to do before they retire, if they haven't saved a lot of money, is please do not try and buy like big products like new roofs, cars, all of these different aspects. You don't want to finance them. You don't want to put them on a monthly debt cycle because you're going to be paying interest for maybe 10, 20 years. One of our current clients asked me, hey, should I pay off our roof? And you know what? It was fascinating. He had a 7.5% loan for his roof. And I didn't know that he took out the loan. They had the money to pay for it. But he asked me, Bill, what should I do with this? And I said, a good rule of thumb is to say, if we're going to make 7% in the market, if your debt load is lower than that, you may want to invest. But in this scenario, a 7.5% debt load, it was better to pay off that roof. Stick with us for the Retire As You Desire show. I'm going to have great new ideas to share with you for your future retirement and really what it takes to hopefully not run out of money in retirement. Welcome back to the Retire As You Desire show, and today we are debunking the number one fear of retirees, and that is running out of money. Money is the biggest part of retirement because that allows you to do the things that you love to do for the most part. But there's a lot of different ways that people get either confused or they don't understand what they could really be doing to benefit their financial life and also their cash flow every month in retirement. We talked a lot about in the other segments of the show as to what are some things we probably want to consider or probably want to do if we haven't saved enough money. We're going to go into that a little bit deeper in this segment. One of the biggest and most important questions I get from people is, should I pay off my mortgage in retirement? And this is a loaded question because it depends on your interest rate on your loan. If someone is, let's say, 5 years away from paying off their house, what I love to do, and this gets very nerdy, but I ask my clients for their amortization schedules. And they look at me like I have 3 heads because they haven't seen it in probably 25 years. They probably got it when they closed on the house or refinanced their house and put that documentation away somewhere. Most people don't know where it is. The good news is you can request that from your mortgage company and they'll send it to you. But here's what I mean by your amortization schedule. It's going to show you how much debt you're paying, whereas how much interest is still on that loan. And when you get closer to the end of your mortgage, you're paying primarily principal, which is what you want to be doing. So if your mortgage rate is, let's say, 2.5% or 3%, but you keep your money invested in the stock market where you have the potential to make 7%, it probably makes more sense to keep that money invested and let the growth on those assets pay off the mortgage for you. You're basically using your money and the growth instead of your principal on your investments to pay off the loan. It's a great way to do things. But also, you need to know, and this is very important, you need to know where you're going to withdraw that money from in retirement to pay off that mortgage. Let's say you've put all of your money into a pre-tax 401k, a pre-tax traditional IRA, and this means you have not been taxed on this money yet. So when you withdraw it, you're going to be taxed. We want to understand if you're going to have a big tax drag on your portfolio if you take a $30,000 or $50,000 withdrawal out of your investments to pay off that mortgage, because you might have to take out $60,000 or $65,000 or $70,000 to pay your taxes, and it also depends on which state you live in. So understanding this with your financial advisor or your tax team would be super critical. We do this so much for our clients. Knowing the tax game and also the potential loss of your investments for paying off your mortgage is critical to understand. So there's a ton of items that could be a drag not only on your life, your stress in retirement, but also your portfolio. But your time is your most valuable asset. I really recommend people to get rid of their bad debt before they retire. And speaking of retirement, this is the thing that I love to do the most, is to help people plan for lifelong or lifetime income. There's a lot of moving parts that happen in retirement. We don't know how long we're going to live. We don't know our health. We don't know the state of the markets throughout the next 20, 30, 40 years of your life. But really, the importance of choosing when you start your Social Security or a pension could play a huge role in the longevity of your assets. So if you're scared of running out of money in retirement, it may behoove you to delay taking your Social Security benefits as long as possible. Here's some reasons why. If you utilize some of your pre-tax money first, and if you allow your Social Security to grow, 2 things are going to happen. Number 1 is you're not going to be taxed on your Social Security during those years that you're not withdrawing your benefit from Social Security. Once you start taking your Social Security, there could be a 50 or 85% taxation on your Social Security. And a lot of people don't know that your Social Security can be taxed. But this also could minimize potential future required minimum distributions when you hit the great age of 73. That's the age of the start date for required minimum distributions here in America in 2024. That could change. It's changed a lot over the past 4 years. But a lot of people choose to start receiving their Social Security benefits at age 62. There's a variety of reasons for this. The most funny one that I hear is, this is my money, I've earned it, I've paid into the system for 40 years already, I want my money. And I think that's not the right mindset going into retirement. That's going to reduce your Social Security benefit for the rest of your life. But the problem with that is, if you're married and if your spouse didn't work, one of the things to consider is delaying that Social Security benefit. And the reason why is, if you pass away, your spouse is going to get that income amount if yours is higher than theirs. And this is where it becomes tricky. If you delay until age 70, you're going to leave your spouse with a potentially higher benefit. Use some of your taxable dollars first, and hopefully you save more money long term that way. But individuals really want to opt into Social Security very early. Some of the reasons to do so is really having an immediate financial need. Some people need that income supplement. I've spoken to people over the years, really in the past 15 years, where they needed that income because they just didn't save enough. And that's not a terrible reason to do so. If you haven't really prepared and saved for retirement, starting your benefits at 62 could provide an immediate income source for you and your family. Another reason is unemployment. And it's tough. If you get laid off or fired from your job in your 60s, it might be hard to actually find work again. That's another reason to consider taking your Social Security early. But again, if you want to have a longer lifespan on your money, it may be better to delay your benefits. Another reason, and this happened with my mom, she got cancer. And when we found out she had lung cancer, we started her Social Security benefits right away, because we didn't know how long she was going to live for. So if you have a cancer scare, a stroke, or if you have a heart attack, if you have things that could potentially shorten your lifespan, maybe one of the things you want to do is consider receiving your Social Security benefits early. That way you could potentially get some of that income out of the system that you've paid into for 30 or 40 years. Now, here's an important one. It's quality of life. Some people prefer to have the extra money to enjoy life while they're young. I hear this so much as well. They say to me, you know what? When I'm 80, I'm not going to be able to travel because I can't walk. I may have hip problems, XYZ, you name it. But the thing is, that may not be true. You may have your health in your 80s and 90s. And if you would have delayed your Social Security benefits, think about how much more you're probably or may need that income later on in life. Well, you still have your time to work part-time or do something on the side, start a side business to make up that income. So that mindset, I don't really agree with. So even if you're young, you still have time to do things to make money. Now, this is one that's so prevalent. People want to stop working early because they can't stand their boss, they can't stand the work, the job stress. They just can't take it anymore. I mean, they're ready for retirement. And stopping your work really outweighs the benefits of still continuing to work. And hopefully you saved enough in your 401ks, maybe real estate or other investments to allow for a bigger and better financial future. But stopping retirement, or really stopping work early, is a hard thing to do if you haven't set up your retirement income for the future. Now, what I really recommend you do is speak with your financial advisor and have them do a break-even analysis for your Social Security. This could be a huge benefit to say, if I live to age 86, here's my break-even point. Or if I live to age 84, here's my break-even point. That's something that we help our clients with, but you definitely would want to consider working with your financial advisor or your tax professional to see how long your break-even point is to wait, if you wait till 67 or 70 for your benefits. And then I have some clients who receive their Social Security money early because they don't need it. This is a tricky one because there's risk involved, but I just want to make this aware to you. They invest that money every month. So if their benefit was, let's say, $2,000, they are reinvesting that $2,000 every month and hoping to make a return on that money. They think that they could have a better return, so that's their prerogative. It's not a terrible idea, especially if you don't need the money right away. So that's something to consider as well. But overall, the biggest one is the spousal strategy. If you are the main income earner in retirement, please be considerate of your spouse and what they're going to be left with. If something were to happen to you early, and I hope you have a long and healthy life, but we don't know. Sometimes things happen, and this is the one planning area that could really affect your future life, your future income, not only for you, but for your future family. So thank you for tuning in to the Retire As You Desire show. In the last segment, I'm going to give you some fun strategies on how to plan for a lifetime income. Welcome back to the Retire As You Desire show. In the last segment, we were kind of dissecting Social Security and why it may or may not be a great idea to start your benefits early. Now, I want to say something that it's a case-by-case basis. With my mom, who passed away when she was 67, we started her Social Security at 64. That's when we found out she had lung cancer, so for her scenario, we didn't know her longevity. So we started her Social Security income early. But here's some great facts to help you make some better decisions in retirement, because once you make these decisions, after 12 months, they become permanent. You do have a 12-month window to pay back the Social Security Administration the dollars that you received, and then you could still delay your income. But the thing is, if you get past those 12 months, that 1 year period, you're going to be set in your income. So big things to really consider, because this is the foundation of a really strong retirement plan. And who doesn't want to have a strong retirement income plan? So when you start to receive your benefits early, let's say at 62, it is roughly 30% less than you starting your Social Security income at your full Social Security age, your full retirement age. That could be 65 through 67. The majority of people are at 67 now, and that's really depending on the year and month you were born. So these reasons are very important as to why you want to make a smart choice for your future retirement income. And this could help you potentially not run out of money in retirement. And that is the number one fear of people in retirement. And if you also start to receive your Social Security income early, your benefits shrink. But if you delay them from 67 to age 70, you have an 8% income increase every single year you delay. So that's the thing. You have a higher income when you turn 70. So really, really interesting strategy, but you want to work with your professionals to really figure things out for yourself. Now, on average, this is on average, health is such a big determining factor for your Social Security. I think, personally, the most important one. The thing is, when you are age 84 to 86, this is sometimes the break-even point. All that needs to be analyzed because it's different for everyone. But on average, that's a good range to think about. If I don't believe I'm going to live past that, you may want to start early. But it's all about longevity for your assets and also for your family. It's really about your family. See, the benefit for planning for lifetime income is all about the foundation in your retirement. And I want to give you some strategies and ideas on how I help my clients plan for potential lifetime income, because this is going to be the foundation and the plan for you to have revenue in retirement. Because once those paychecks stop, where are you going to receive your income? Pensions are another big, question mark in retirement, just like Social Security. what should you do with your pension? Number one, very few people have pensions anymore. If you do, that's a blessing. It really, really is. But what you do with that pension could prove very critical for your future retirement years. So the Bureau of Labor Statistics in 2023, they did a national compensation survey, and it stated that 11% of private sector workers participate in a pension plan. Only 11%. It was maybe opposite this in the 1950s, 60s, and 70s, because in the 1970s, the ERISA laws came into play, and that's when the 401k was born. Companies didn't want to have that risk on their balance sheets, so they got rid of the pensions and offered the 401k plans. That's what happened in the 1970s. So it's probably unlikely that you're going to have a pension for your future, but if you do, some really important things to understand before you make a distribution from your account or before you select your benefits. Here are some things that you want to take into consideration. Should you take a lump sum or should you not? This is what I start with all the time, and that's the first question from everyone. This question comes down to whether or not you have kids, a spouse still, because if you want to pass on assets to your children, if that's important to you, it's not for everyone, but if you do, maybe a lump sum could be a great benefit for you and your family. Because the thing is, if you don't take a lump sum and if your pension starts to get paid out, you have to be very careful with which option you choose. Do you take a single life? Do you take a spousal option to whereas your spouse would receive money after you pass away? But the question is, if you have $500,000 theoretically in a pension lump sum, and if you pass away, or if you and your spouse pass away, where does that money go? If it won't get passed down to the children, and you want that to, you may want to consider a lump sum withdrawal. And you could potentially do that tax-free if you roll over that money into a traditional IRA. So something to definitely consider. That's very important. And another thing you want to consider is how much income is your pension going to derive? If you cannot find an investment outside of what's being really offered to you inside the pension that's going to pay you a higher income, it may be in your best interest to keep the money in your pension, especially if you're single. And this is where some people hate this word, some people love this word. It just depends on your mindset around this. But this is not a blanket recommendation in any way, shape, or form. But some people have used an annuity instead of a pension to pay out their lifetime income. So you almost go shopping, essentially, to see if you could generate a potential higher income from the pension, and then you could potentially have money to pass on to your children, spouse, or beneficiaries if things go well and if the markets perform well, or if the annuity that you purchase, if you do that, goes well. Some people really don't like them because they could potentially have higher cost. Some have no cost. You just have to understand what's available in the marketplace. And this is something that I say to people all the time. Just have an open mind going into retirement, because you don't know which investments are going to help you get to your desired income amounts in retirement. And you just really want to understand, if you invest money inside of any sort of investment product, how long your income could last and what that looks like for your future. So that's very important. And going into retirement, you definitely want to be working with a fiduciary. That means someone who's going to be working in your best interest and looking at all different types of financial products that could fit your need. And that's how I run my business. That's how I run the retirement income planning for our clients. That's all about having a great relationship for working with someone for the long term. That's what I recommend, is finding someone who may be, a little bit younger than you, actually. Our clients love the fact that I'm 38 right now in 2024 because they think I'm going to be here for the next 30, 40 years as they are not around, but we could potentially pass down assets to the next generation and be that advisor of their family choice. But being with a fiduciary is one of the most important questions you need to ask your financial advisor before and in retirement, because that could be a big determining factor whether you run out of money or not in retirement, and that's the number one danger. So one other item that I want to share with you as we wrap up our show today is I really think it's a great idea to get that car of choice or put on that new roof or replace the fridge or the stove, the microwave, all these things while you're working and not in retirement. This is a big one. You use your income from your job to pay for these things. That way you don't have a huge tax drag on money in retirement, especially if all of your money is in a primarily taxable account if you haven't been taxed on that money yet. So understanding when to make big purchases could potentially derail your future longevity of your retirement income. And I really want to say that I love the fact that you're tuning into our show. We're here for you. If you don't know how long your money could potentially last for in retirement, and if you want to find out how, I would love for you to reach out to us. Our office number is 773-326-8472. We would love to set up a complimentary retirement income plan for you, and would love to see how long your money could potentially last and see how much money you could potentially live off of and live hopefully that great life in retirement. The Retire As You Desire show is all about giving you great ideas and great feedback on how to live the best life you want in retirement. Thank you, and please tune in every Friday night, 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. We're going to have a new TV show for you, and we're so grateful for you to be spending time with us.